Greetings gamers, this is Shiny with our second faction rollout video for Age of Sigmar. Today we talk about the Soulblight Gravelords, so let's dive right in. The Gravelords largely resemble the old Vampire Count's army from the world that was, Warhammer Fantasy Battles, using heavily specialized and customized Vampire Lords who could fill out multiple roles in your army. They were supported by hordes of zombies, skeletons, and ghouls, as well as heavily specialized units like Bats, Karen Race, and the Black Coach. The magic helped with recursion, debuffing enemy units, or empowering your own. The Soulblight Gravelords look to play heavily on these themes and concepts from the Vampire Count's army. Large amounts of recursion, shape units that screen your heavy hitters and Vampire Lords, and while we still don't know the full details, we have a pretty good idea of what to expect from what we have seen. Old school Vampire models were heavily customizable, which is at odds with the streamlined Age of Sigmar game. We don't know how this is going to play out per se, but we do know that there are already 3 named vampire heroes that could be a mix of the old Blender Lord, Wizard, and Summoner models from before. More on that later. Blood Knights. One of the updated units are the Blood Knights, and I'm not going to lie, I'm very excited about these. They were originally released back in 7th edition in Metal, and they transitioned from Metal to Finecast back in 8th. And while the reception of these models themselves was fantastic, and they were universally loved, they were also universally avoided because the cost of these was so high that these models rarely ever saw play. They were heavily kit bashed. Some people used the High Elf Dragon Knights, and they used the Warriors of Chaos Knight kits to sort of customize and kit bash their own version of a Blood Knight. Now, the new models play heavily on the themes and design motifs previously seen on the 7th edition models. The segmented bat armor is present, as well as the blood and dragon themes that were a huge part of their old lore. On a related topic, I actually am wondering if this is going to be cheaper than the previous versions, because if it is, it'll literally be one of the first cases of Games Workshop releasing a kit that is both updated and cheaper than the previous incarnation. Correct me if I'm wrong. That being said, the Blood Knights got a huge thumbs up from me. Fell Bats and Bat Swarms. Now, we've already seen the Bat Swarms from Cursed City at this point, and I largely suspect that they're going to be only available in that box set for the time being. Fellbats, however, are looking to get their own kit. Now, Fellbats and Bat Swarms were released in 5th and 6th edition respectively. They were released in Metal and were largely used as backline harassment units in the case of Fellbats, and they allowed your heavy hitters to get into place to do the most damage possible. And they did that by straight up harassing artillery or your enemy wizards, things like that. Bat Swarms fulfilled a different function in that they were more of a disruption unit. They prevented charges, they got into places they shouldn't get into, they could fly, and more importantly, they did not crumble, which was a big issue for managing your Vampire Count's armies back in the day. For those of you who never played the old school Warhammer, essentially Vampire Counts were they had a distinct weakness in that their spellcaster unit had to stay alive to keep your animated undead models alive. That meant that if your wizard was taken out, your army would crumble, and they would continue to crumble every turn until you either had a new wizard take command or you would lose the game. Now, obviously that's not really how models or armies are done in this game, so I don't know what function that's going to be different, but as far as updates go, they are greatly improved from the previous version. They look more modern, less Halloween-like, and the Bat Swarms they're perfectly functionable for both Warhammer, even games like Dungeons & Dragons. Released way back in 2nd edition in 1984, and then updated again in the year 2000, are the Skeleton Warriors. It's a venerable kit, and it's largely remembered for being very fiddly to assemble. That being said, the 2000 version still holds up reasonably to this day. The new kits, however, showcase a lot more cloth and armor and have more unique postures and poses this time around. And I largely assume, without actually having to assemble one, that they will be far easier to build. If you're interested in this army and want to collect the 2000 version of the Skeleton Warrior, I would get on that now, because they are going to go super fast. That's with the assumption that these new skeletons are being replaced by the up-armored version. Now, I suspect that the White King with the Mail Blade and the White King on Skeletal Steed will be around for those who want a pure skeleton army. And either these skeletons are going to be a core choice, or the White Kings will make them core. And I think that's going to play out with our next one, the Deadwalker Zombies. This kit came out in 2nd edition, and boy do they look like it. They have not aged very well, and there's a lot of competition on the market now for zombie models. Luckily, this new kit is a lot more distinctive, and this time around, they clearly came from the ground. They're sporting roots, headstones, and fences and paling some of them. And I'm not gonna lie, I do like the look, but I can see why it would be hit or miss for some people. And I think the only way to really correct that is, one, either not to have the headstone zombies, or mixing them together with the non-impaled versions to give your zombie a horde look, which is very on brand. Now, likely, zombie heroes will be around this time, and this is with the assumption that Gorslav the Gravekeeper is in fact a zombie. We don't know that yet. But if he is a zombie, that means we're actually going to be able to get zombie heroes, which is actually a first for this faction. Well, this is a first for vampire counts, not necessarily Age of Sigmar. Now on to the announced lords. 2 of the models were showcased already on New Model Mondays at the Warhammer community website. First we had Kritza the Rat Prince, and secondly we had Lady Annika the Thirsting Blade. So basically we have 4 new lord kits, 5 if we include the Bale Blade White King, or 6 if we include the Plastic Necromancer. We don't know if those will be in the faction per se, but when you have a mounted White King on Skeletal Steed, I just assume the dismounted White King is a shoo-in. One thing to note is so far we don't have any new wizard models. We are going to get several things being introduced with the Rat King and the Thirsting Blade. So that leaves us with 7 kits, and I don't think we are done seeing anything yet. Now if you looked at the front of the Soulblight Gravelords Battle Tome, you're going to see both a large centerpiece zombie dragon, and you see a little giant rat. And I think those are indicators of new kits coming out. If they're not, it's a really big tease by Games Workshop, and shame on you. That being said, here are my predictions for what we can expect for future announcements and releases. The Varykos kit and the Varkscar. Now these were introduced into Cursed City as sort of these semi-transformed vampires in the form of Varykos, and the Varkscar kindly resembles a lot of the older Vargeist and Varg units. I will expect to see these in box kits myself. Expect a wizard model, or a necromancer, or a vampire wizard of some sort, because this army does not have any spellcasters at the moment. We've already mentioned the giant rat and the rat swarm, and I think that's a shoo-in, to be honest. They may not necessarily be released in time for this first book, but my prediction is the second book, we might get those. Other ideas are the Uber Zombies, which are present in Cursed City, the large centerpiece model Zombie Dragon, and some kind of vampire infantry. I'm thinking that something that resembles the war band from Warhammer Underworlds. And those are largely just generic ideas based on what we've seen so far. We could see other things like, say, for example, terrain pieces. We could even see things like endless spells. But we haven't had any announcements on those, but we could always put them in for predictions because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Those are my thoughts and ideas so far for the Soulblight Gravelords. I'm really looking forward to this faction. It was the original faction I loved back in the day, them and the dwarfs. So it'll be nice to see them updated. But what do you guys think? Are you looking forward to them? Is this a missed step for you guys? Let me know down in the comments. Now, if you guys like my content, feel free to subscribe. It's free to do and it really helps me out. If not, I totally get it. I hate clicking buttons too. But this is Shiny signing off. Have yourselves a happy day. Have yourself some happy wargaming. And remember guys, it's not about who wins or loses. It's about who has fun. This is Overlord Shiny. Out.